We're live.
Yay.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Go ahead, Sherrod.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Coach Sherrod Brown.
And my name is Robyn Herron, and I'm your carnivorous grandma, Coach Robyn. And we're happy to have with us our guest tonight, Cristie from Meeting Wellness. Hey, Cristie.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. So every other week we go live. We have conversations that challenge our conventional thinking around health and nutrition while helping you to understand what true healing really looks like. Tonight, we're excited because we are talking about a subject that we have never covered before, and that is teenagers and carnivore. So, more specifically, can changing what teenagers eat actually change their health? Back to
Right.
Coach Brown.
And I think this is a great conversation that we need to have because when we talk about teenagers today, we're not just talking about a few extra pounds. We're seeing a lot of teenagers or young people dealing with obesity, prediabetes, fatty liver disease, digestive problems, poor sleep, low energy, anxiety, depression. And in some cases, they're already taking medications for conditions we used to associate primarily with adults. So now, I don't think we should just look at this as every problem a teenager has and say it's the food. It's a little more. That's too easy to say, right? So I think we have to be willing to ask the harder questions, and this is I like doing these because this is it. Um, what environment have we created for our kids, right? And a lot of times when we think about these things is how I grew up a certain way, so I ate a certain way. And then you teach that to your kids. Of course, now my kids are all grown and out the house, but I'm still trying to teach them to eat healthy. Of course, a lot of times they don't like to hear it, but I feel I have to share with them, so I do.
Hmm.
And so then when we're talking about their health and the things that's going wrong and the direction they're going, we are focusing entirely on the child. And so we need to look at what we're feeding them. So tonight we're not going to be not here to tell every parent put your teenager on carnivore or anything like that. We're asking something much more important. Is food part of the problem? And if it is, could food become part of the solution? Tonight, we're going to explore those questions. Robyn?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to turn it over to Cristie before we get into some more scientific type of stuff. Just, Cristie, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody about your family dynamic and who in your life that was a teenager became a carnivore.
Yes. Okay. So, in my family, I went carnivore first because, I actually went keto first because I was like, I'm going to lose some weight. And I think that's what a lot of people think. And, Coach Sherrod mentioned, that a lot of teenagers are struggling with that. That was not my son's story at all. In fact, he's, almost too thin. It's hard to find him pants now that he's adult sized, except in the waist. It's like they don't make stretchy pants for the kids' pants have the elastic waist, and we'd always like cinch those things in. And now his legs are long, and it's a whole thing. So it's for him, weight was not the issue. But I hear you on that because I see kids all around me, struggling with having some extra pounds on them. Anyways, I went keto first just to lose the weight and discovered carnivore and had a lot of other amazing benefits besides weight loss, like mental health benefits, skin clarity, joints, all these things that you hear us carnivores talking about quite often if you watch enough of these. And I had done carnivore for about a year when I started learning about how it might positively affect mental health more than just me with my social anxiety, which was my personal experience. But I heard things like, bipolar and schizoaffective and all these things. And I was like, well, dang, like my son has ADHD. That's a mental challenge right there. And maybe this way of eating, or even a high fat ketogenic diet, really, I think was all I was thinking at the time, would be something that could help, with with the issues that we were experiencing at the house and at school too. So what were those issues? Well, he was diagnosed in preschool with sensory integration processing. So he was never diagnosed as being on the spectrum, although I'm not necessarily ruling that out. With the high number of sensory processing issues in all 5 senses that he was diagnosed with at that time. And so that was the first diagnosis that we had. And it was because he was just having these meltdowns at school. So the afternoon would come, and by the afternoon he would be, on the floor pitching a fit, and they would have to pick him up and carry him out of there and put him in a quiet, darkish, room in the office so that he could like regulate and come back down from that. And they were very severe. And he was started having those at home too. And I just thought when they first started happening, oh, maybe this is part of the terrible twos kind of thing, but they didn't go away. They did not go away, and they did not improve, and they got worse. The bigger he got, the worse it got. And then we got into elementary school, and he, although is very intelligent, but he was not completing assignments and staying on task, and he would just be up in everybody's business. I mean, physically, like he had no personal boundaries. Personal physical boundaries were not a thing. He didn't understand that. Then people wouldn't like that. And next thing you know, he's mad and he's whatever. And so things like that would just happen pretty consistently. And through this whole time, we tried all the interventions that I knew as a mom, as a teacher. We even got, at that point, the school system involved. So he had behavior support plans, and he was fully assessed. That's how I know his IQ is high. So he is smart, but he just, we had him fully assessed for all the academic testing and all this stuff and all the education plans and all, these things. And then we got the medical community outside involved with occupational therapy, and not one of these things, the counseling, none of it helped any of the symptoms that I just briefly described. Wow. So it just wasn't getting better. And it was more like walking on eggshells all the time, trying to hopefully tiptoe around it so that one of these meltdowns wouldn't happen. But inevitably, it would happen, because life's going to happen, and a certain number of frustrations are going to build up for everybody, and then he would, again have a meltdown. So we had some pretty extreme and severe symptoms going on over here. And then after doing Carnivore for a year, I was like, well, maybe this could help him with that. And nothing else has helped, including prescription meds. And so I asked him one day if he would like to give it a try, and he agreed. And so he started eating Carnivore in February of 2024.
1 year after me.
Yeah, well, 1 year after me.
Yeah, you and I are right on the same page. I just had a quick question for you, because I've been thinking about, young people and, IEPs, and I don't know what they call them, 503 plans or whatever they have to help kids with support, 504, to help kids with supports. And I'm wondering, because this didn't really help them, I'm wondering about, is it important for people to have these kinds of plans in place for their kids?
So I'm a public school teacher, so I would tell you, it really depends on how the testing turns out. So there's a couple different that we first had him on an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, and that's officially special education. Now, again, it wasn't because of his mental capacity, and it usually isn't. Kids on IEPs, actually, their IQ has to be kind of higher or normal, but they have to have some kind of deficit where they're working 2 years or more below that potential. So kids in a general education classroom with an IEP, they don't have issues with intelligence, right? But it's just they're having a hard time meeting the standards for some reason. In my son's case, it was ADHD, but it can be any number of learning disabilities, right? That could be causing it could be some kind of processing deficit with auditory or visual or whatever it is. And that would be on the school psychologist would do that testing, as well as the special education teachers. And then they would meet as a team to determine that. So he had that, but only through speech. So it wasn't through academics. It was because of speech, and it was pragmatic speech, meaning he doesn't know how to talk to people, take turns talking to people, that kind of a thing. That's how we got him in. And I got him in because he did have difficulties with that as per his testing. But also when you have an IEP, you can get some of the adjunct things going on in the school district that are not standalone, such as occupational therapy was not a standalone thing that I could add unless he had an IEP, which is why I went that route. Being a teacher myself, that's why I knew to do that. A lot of parents would not know. Now, a 504 plan is different. So that's, you are not a special education student if you have a 504 plan. My son is no longer in public school. If you want to talk about that later, we will. We are homeschooling him this year.
I think I saw that on your channel.
Yeah. So up until last year, he was on a 504 plan. And so that allows for, if you have any kind of a diagnosis, like I've had kids on a 504 plan because of a food allergy. There's any diagnosis, you could have this 504 plan, and it allows for whatever accommodations are needed to support you. Now, the thing is, what both of those things offer supports to the students, but nobody can make anybody do anything, right? So if the student is not like, oh, well, on my 504, like I have learned now all of these ways of coping, like Zach learned from multiple people, Zach's my son, learned from multiple people, the counselor, the occupational therapist, emotional regulation strategies. And he thumbed his nose up at all of it. Doesn't matter. So no matter how many adults were getting involved, if you were the adult coming from the outside trying to help him regulate, he did not want any part of that, which is why those plans didn't work for him. I've had plenty of students in my 27 years in the classroom, that those plans were a great benefit for that student, because they would understand and they would put those things in place and they were happy to use that. My son did not want any part of any of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the answer to my question is it depends.
Yes.
That's always the answer to the question. But I'll let Sherrod go ahead with his
I had a
question
question
or comment.
for you, Cristie, and I probably should have known this before. What state are you in?
I'm over here on the West Coast in California.
In California, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's pretty standard state to state, though, right? With the IEPs to a degree and the 504.
Yeah. So if you have any of those IEP or 504 in any of the 50 states and you move to a different state, that will follow you, and all of the legal, expectations, everything that has to happen, it continues to happen no matter what state you go to.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for sharing that information. This actually, thanks, Robyn. She was telling me this is going to be so great. Yeah. It is. And not just, I'm just thinking about just the family members I have that could just use some of this information to help them out, right? Because a lot of times when we're talking about our children, we, whether it's, inactivity or whether it's they're, overweight, they got, all these different things that our children are dealing with, and yet, sometimes we just continue to keep doing the same things and not really knowing that maybe if I change this one thing, especially when we're talking about food, if that's the basic thing that we could do as a parent, because I look back over some of the things I did as a parent, and I'm like, man, I shouldn't have did all that. But, in order to pacify our children, we think McDonald's is a great treat, or we think candy or donuts or these things to get them to, fall in line is a good thing to do. And I mean, knowing what I know now, I would never ever do that.
Right.
But before
yep.
It was like so I feel like sometimes parents might feel like they don't know what to do in these situations. So
Right.
I'm hoping that in this conversation, maybe that also could come out to where they get to understand, okay, maybe let's check their mood. Let's are they able to concentrate? Are they sleeping well? Because many kids today, they're not just struggling with weight, they're struggling
Right.
with a lot of different things. And so
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I think your story matters. You weren't just chasing number, trying to get numbers on scale. Of course, that wasn't his problem anyway, but
Right.
you were trying to help your son get healthier. And the fact that he had the opportunity to be offered carnivore is great, because
Yes.
I know when I accepted the carnivore, and I say accepted like it was, because I denied it. I
Mm.
denied it for 2 years. Robyn to tell you, she tried for 2 years to to get it in the thick skull, and I just could not comprehend that this would work for me until I tried it. And
Yes.
Mm.
so that's what I just want to leave it at. Try it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because that's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
I think that people are afraid. They're afraid to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take some courage to do that. But, as was mentioned, a lot of these chronic diseases that our young people are facing was unheard of, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, right? We did not see all of these different disease states happening within young people, and us really expecting our young people to be at their best when they're suffering from the same kind of problems that we're suffering from. And a lot of it has to do with the foods that we are eating, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So I think about like type 2 diabetes, or back in the day it was called adult onset or juvenile diabetes. Sometimes they would have, but it was not common for young people to have this problem. So, with our teenagers, um, the food environment, just like it has for us, the food environment has changed drastically over this last 100 years, right? And so we're seeing all different kinds of diseases and issues happening. We got all this ultra processed food. We're eating many, many, many times a day. And I know, Cristie, as a teacher and as an educator, you're seeing the kind of food that we're feeding to
Uh-huh.
our kids on these
Uh,
school programs, right? So it's constantly an influx of sugar. And again, as Coach Brown was saying, that they're not sleeping well, they're scrolling, they're spending so much time on devices. I'm looking at these little kids that I got in my house, like, oh my gosh, could we just, it's highly addictive to scroll, right? We know that as adults, if we get in the habit of scrolling a lot, it's very, very addictive.
mhm.
So, this combination is really problematic. And we're looking at kids and we're saying, what the heck is wrong with these kids? What's wrong with them?
Yeah.
We are really trying to figure out what is wrong, just like we are doing with ourselves, right? We're calling it a personality problem, some kind of issue that's wrong with a child, but we really need to be asking the question, what has changed over the past 100 years that has caused this boom in issues like ADD, ADHD within young people? So I want you to just touch a little bit, Cristie, before I go back to Coach Brown, on the food environment and what you're seeing inside of the schools.
Okay, so I have so much to say on this, but I will try to keep it brief. First thing I want to talk about is actually, I just real quick touch on sleep, because I teach elementary students. They're 10 and 11. You don't even want to know, because it would scare you to know how many times at a parent conference, because we have those in October every single year, and they're coming in and I'm telling them, your child falls asleep in class every day. And the response is, well, I just can't get them off their phone or their video game or so they're gaming or scrolling or whatever device, fill in the blank device, right? Until 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I hear this from the parents. I'm like, take it away. Take it away.
Right.
Anyway, so I mean, you're right. Where their sleep, I'm not kidding. The number of kids falling asleep in class. When it first started happening, they would be like, the other kids would kind of tease them, and it would be embarrassing. Right now, it's, oh yeah, they're asleep. It's just normal now. Oh, they're asleep. Okay, yeah, they are. Because it happens, somebody falls asleep frequently in class now. And when I address this with the parents, that is what I hear. They cannot get their kid off the device to get their sleep. But that's not what you asked me about, Robyn. But Sherrod said it, and I was like, I got to address this because this is what I see over and over and over again from my perspective, right? Because I have access to all of these kids and their parents and things. Okay, the food environment. So, I mean, we could go a lot of directions with this. Every morning, I see kids coming in from the car drop off. Many kids with a big sugary coffee drink in a pastry. Robyn, who bought that for them? They are 10.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't drive themselves through that drive-through. Okay. So it's become acceptable. And I did it too. So Coach Brown talking about there were so many things I did that I would not do again. Me too. I did it too. It's just so normalized now that I look at that and go, yikes. And then I know what I'm going to be dealing with. I got to try to teach that kid math now. After that, good luck to me, but it's just normalized. Like I don't think they know that they're doing potential harm, right? With that kid's sugar levels, insulin levels, all that. Additionally, we teachers, we have to share before school duty. So if I have before school duty, I know I'm going to be in the cafeteria with a couple teachers and like the whole school. It's not an eating time. I know I just said cafeteria, but we could say multi-purpose room. It's just where they come in, they sit down, and they wait for the teachers to come and pick them up and start the day. It's not a breakfast. It's not an eating time. And whenever I am in there, every time, I'm telling kids, we're not eating now. Put that away. Now, if it was a hard-boiled egg, I'd probably let them eat it, but it's not. It's a piece of candy. It's a bag of chips. It is a sugary sports drink. First thing in the morning, we're talking 7:25 in the morning. And they're walking in, so they've got this stuff in their backpack. And then they know they're not supposed to be doing it, so they think they're sneaky. They're not that sneaky, but they think they're being sneaky. And then I have to catch them and say, put it away. We're not eating. But that's what's going in their mouth. There's a bunch of sugar. Like I said, if it was a cheese stick or a hard-boiled egg, I'd probably just look the other way. But it's a bunch of sugar. So I'm like, put it away. Then, and the same thing after school too. Like we're going to go out to the car pickup. Not supposed to be eating out there. You're out here waiting for your ride, and out come immediately with the snacks. And it's some highly processed thing. And I'm like, that and the phones, put them away. You're not off campus. Put it away. We're not eating. We're not phoning. Put it away. That's all day long, or when I'm on duty. Right. Then we look at everything in between. And in public schools in California, we give now 2 meals a day, which we kind of always did my whole career, but breakfast used to be before school. Now we do it called breakfast after the bell, because with the effort of being more inclusive, that's what they say. And so, if a kid is tardy and they miss breakfast, and that's not good, so let's put it after the bell, right? And so we feed a breakfast and we feed a lunch. And it is free for every kid. So it doesn't cost anything to the families. The families may or may not even know whether or not their kid is taking that meal, because any kid who's at that school can just stand in line to get a meal, right? Now, that would be fine too if it had some protein or some fat or something in there, but it's not. It's some kind of highly processed item that comes in a plastic container that they heated up in that plastic, bag thing most of the time, because for breakfast, it'll be, like I said, I think I mentioned it. I don't know. I've done a lot of live streams lately. But it'll be like a chocolate muffin with chocolate chips in a plastic bag that they warmed up in that bag, or fill in the blank flavor of muffin. There's a few flavors, blueberry and whatever. One day it was legit. It looked like a chocolate chip cookie with some frosting on it. And then if you turn it over and look at the ingredients, it's a chemical soup is what it is. but it looked like a chocolate chip cookie with some frosting on it. Sometimes it's a straight up Pop-Tart. You should see how excited the kids get when it's a Pop-Tart. Sometimes it's a straight up Pop-Tart. Other times it's cereal, right? Fruit Loops, chocolate, whatever, something cereal, like Cocoa Puffs. They're like not the name brands usually, but it's like Cocoa Puffs, Fruit Loops, that kind of thing. With non-fat milk, non-fat chocolate milk, or 1% white milk. Those are their choices.
Wow.
And or sometimes, so that's the breakfast. If there's any protein anywhere in there, occasionally once in a while there'll be like a cheese stick in with that, which is optional. They don't have to take it, right? They have to take the main item and the fruit. Okay, let's talk about the fruit, Robyn. Sometimes it is just fruit. Sometimes, like it's like one of those little tangerines or something. Sometimes, but a lot of the time it's some kind of fruit that has added sugar in there. So just why, I don't know, but it's like those little dried cranberry things, but with like there's extra sugar in there. You know. Thank you, Uncle Charlie. I appreciate that. If you guys haven't seen my interview with Dr. Barry, it was awesome. Go and find it after this. Anyways, then we go to lunch. Okay. What lunch do the kids get most excited for? And then I'll be quiet because I could go on this all day. Here's the lunch the kids get the most excited for. Okay. Straight up nacho cheese Doritos, nacho cheese flavored Doritos with cheese sauce. You know what I'm talking about? The highly processed cheese. Who knows what's in there? I'm scared to read those ingredients. Some kind of oil, some kind of seed oil, and who knows how they make it taste like cheese. I don't know, but it's like that nacho cheese sauce on those chips. Yeah. They get so excited for that day. And that's served frequently. So that's what's being fed to them throughout the day, not to mention what they're bringing from home. It is super rare if I even see a kid with like some cucumber slices or some fruit, whatever, for their snack that they brought from home. I don't want to say never that, but it's pretty much never that. It's like 1% of the time I might see a kid. And when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. Did your mom, like I make a big deal about, oh, look at that. You have food.
You got amazing. A single ingredient food. Wow.
Yes,
that's incredible.
Food. Good for you and good for your mom for packing that for you.
Sherrod, do you want to talk a little bit about what has happened with our food environment and why is it like this? I mean, this is so incredible that this is what's being served and fed to our kids, and we're expecting them to be at their best.
Yeah. Gosh. It breaks my heart because, being in I would say an institutionalized commercial kitchen when I was in the military, and then actually getting out into the private sector doing the same thing. One of the things that I've always known is if you can make food from scratch, it's better for you than it is if it's already pre-done. And a lot of these places we eat are doing the easy, cheaper way of serving food. For instance, we go out for breakfast. You're no longer getting eggs that are cracked, because I used to do that. I would spend time cracking eggs. It's called prepping. That's what you did, And so when people came in, you have already eggs cracked. You can make your omelet, everything. That's not how the way it goes now. Now they're opening up cartons, and in these cartons of things they're serving the eggs in, if they're eggs, they're powdered eggs with added water. You add water to them to make them. I mean, there's so much today that it just I don't like to go out to eat. So I typically don't. If I do go out, we never find them butter anymore. So and then when you ask for butter, they're bringing you this liquid stuff that's not butter. It's the oil, and it's as they call it, margarine, which is 65-75% vegetable oil. So these changes. So along with the food that's being served in our school system to the children, these corporations have taken over serving a lot of these foods. Not just, and I know we're talking about schools and our kids, This is also happening in hospitals, you all.
Mm-hmm.
I went, oh my God, I had to eat breakfast at the hospital because I was in there with my wife at the University of Michigan. And you would think, okay, I'm going to get a great meal. No, it was contracted out. I think Caremark, one of those different
Mm-hmm.
companies,
Mm.
using seed, or I just sat there and watched them make eggs. Every time they take a little pot, they pour this butter looking stuff. Look like butter. It's not butter, it's oil. And they're cooking all our food with this stuff. And I asked for a burger, got the burger, no bread. And I bit into that burger and I was like, this is not ground beef. What is this? I took it back, got my money back. I was like, because it was $20 for it anyway.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, yes. And I
Wow.
just was thinking, people are paying for this food, and it's not real food. Like it's a as what'd you say earlier, Cristie? What you call it? Explosion of something? I don't know. I don't.
I
I've
don't know
heard so
what I
many.
said.
Yeah, you
A
said
frankenfood, a food-like substance. I don't
a
know.
mix
One of
of
those.
chemicals that are been
Chemical
put
Yeah.
together
stew,
to
chemical soup. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
chemical soup.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's being served not only to people in the hospitals, but in our schools. And
Military.
so military, yes. So look, it's everywhere. And somewhere in the last 10 to 15 years, these corporations and companies have taken over serving these things. And quietly, what else is going on is all these companies are buying up all the small companies and restaurants and all that. And so they're doing all these things behind the scenes, and then so they're bringing in all these different types of foods now that are cheaper to serve,
Yep.
and they're in their process. And so
Yes.
so while we're just continuing on in our everyday life, just going to the store, do this to eat, go out to eat, we're just eating it and we aren't paying attention. So now
Right.
it's just time for all of us to start paying attention to what's going on. We need to
Mm.
be aware of what we're serving our kids. It does
Yes.
affect them, as you can hear. And it is, their bodies are still growing, right? I mean, they're still developing. I was thinking about what you were talking about, just them eating breakfast, getting up eating breakfast, and then going to lunch. It's like a glucose bomb all day long
Yep.
because all the food, and you might say, well, this they're not eating sugar all day. Well, yes, they
Yes,
are,
they are.
because the foods that they're eating, that's what it does in our body. It raises your glucose up. So, and that's what happens. And so think about that, combined with not sleeping well, combined with, bright lights in their eyes. They're on these phones and tablets now. We didn't have these problems growing up. We got sent outside to play. We used our brain because you had to imagine, you had to make up games. And when you got tired of that game, you made up another one. And
That's
you
right.
stayed outside and played and, got bit by bugs and all this stuff. These kids today, I hate to say it, but I'm here watching my niece and nephew. They so terrified of a fly, they will about knock over the whole house to get because of fly. And I'm just
Yep.
like, they need to go. They need to be outside playing a little more or something.
Right.
Because, but that's how things have changed over the years. So we have to, as parents today, have to be aware of what our kids are eating and be more involved in what they're eating, which causes us to be more involved in what we're eating. So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
hey, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
man. Thank you so
So
much,
yeah,
Cristie, for this.
that
Yes.
I want to add one little thing before I turn it over to Cristie to talk about her son's carnivore transition. But my grandkids are living with us right now for this last year, and every Friday they bring home a bag of food from school. Inside that bag of food is cookies and little fruit cups and boxes of cereal. It was really, really bad. And they would open up those bags as soon as they get home and start eating all of the sugary stuff out of the bag. And I'm like, look, don't open that bag until I have a chance to look and see what's in. There's nothing, there's no food in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
There's no food in the bag. It's all a bunch of ultra processed junk. And, so I don't know how we can expect them to be at their best. Anyway, I had to chime in on that. But just tell us a little bit,
Yeah.
Cristie, your son, tell us again, how did he decide to start? And then he started in February 2024. And what happened?
Okay, so yeah, he decided to start because I asked him if he would try it. I told him about how I had been eating this way. He had watched me too, right? So he had watched me and he had watched the changes that occurred for me. And then I told him that, look, there's different studies and things being done, people trying this to improve their mental health. And then I kind of reiterated a little bit about, look, we're experiencing this and this. We've tried all of this and we haven't really seen a lot of changes. Would you be willing to try carnivore or eat like me, for 30 days just to see if it would help? Because maybe it'll help when nothing else has helped. And so he looked up to one side like this, and he was thinking about it. And he said that he would be willing to try it for 30 days, but he would really miss his ice cream. And I was like, the mouth of, I know he's not a baby, but the young, right? The youth, because he is not wrong.
Right.
He definitely was used to being able to have ice cream pretty much after dinner every day, and he thought about it. He analyzed it. He seen, how he had seen how I was eating. And then it was like, but I'm going to miss that. And I was like, look, we could figure that out, but let's give this a try. And so we started February 1st of 2024. And we started in a way that I've seen a lot of, hate for in social media, but I don't care. I'm going to always be a proponent in some cases for the carnivore recipes. And my son's case is one of those cases. So you heard me talking about earlier his sensory integration processing. He could not deal with different textures of food. He had a very hard time with that. There would be no way that I could have handed this kid on February 1st a ribeye or a piece of picanha or whatever and said, here's your carnivore food for the day, son. Like, no way. He would have been like, I'm out, bye, give me some pizza. Like, it wouldn't have happened, right? And so I went about looking for and creating, based on what other people had done and what I thought he would like, different carnivore recipes. So I want to make that very clear. So what was he eating? Processed freezer aisle chicken nuggets with seed oils and breading, right? And then I made him chicken nuggets out of just ground chicken, some pork panko, some Parmesan cheese, some salt, and then I made him those. It was like a substitute for chicken nuggets that was healthier than, way healthier, right, than what he was eating. We started with carnivore pancakes for breakfast. He was eating a lot of like pizza pockets out of the freezer aisle. So we made a ketovore pizza pocket with just some mozzarella cheese, some pepperoni, some sausage, a little bit of low carb, like marinara sauce, another piece of cheese, bake it in the oven. Boom. It like seals itself shut, makes a little pocket. He was eating those. So that is what he was eating. He was eating that way for a good while. I don't even know how the transition happened. Gradually it happened, but I want to point out that the changes that we saw, the first changes that we saw in his behavior and in his mental state for the positive happened when he was eating those carnivore recipes that some people will just put hate on all day long. And I'm like, look, when you're transitioning over, or if you have a kid, I think those recipes can be a great bridge for people.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
my son today, what does my son eat today? None of those recipes. He eats chuck roast and burger patties like the rest of us. Okay. But I couldn't have started him there. No way.
Right.
So the first change that I noticed was about a week in. And I'm sitting on the couch, minding my own business. And out he comes with a bag of trash. He just has a big trash bag in his hand. And I watch him put it by the back door and go back to his room and come back out with another one. Big bag of trash, put it down by the back door. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, but all right. About the third or fourth bag, and we're talking kitchen-sized trash bags, okay, big ones. I said, hey, what you doing? You know? And he's like, cleaning my room, like nonchalant. Like I couldn't say it. Like, I mean, he was like cleaning my room, like as if that was normal, as if cleaning his room was a thing he did. Okay. Cleaning his room was not a thing that he ever did. How do I know? Because from the age for his whole childhood, young childhood, we fought the clean your room battle till he was about 8 or 9. And I was like, I got to let that battle go because we're busy fighting the go to school battle and the do your homework battle and the take a shower battle. So the clean your room battle is not the battle that I'm not going to die on that hill. So I gave up. And so, you know, at this time he was 15. I hadn't told him to clean his room in 8 years or whatever, you know, and he just comes out just nonchalant, like just cleaning my room, like as if it was a normal part of his life, you know, and his room had gotten to be such a pile of, you know, debris, trash, items, toys, a mixture of all of these things. There was like a narrow, you know, way that he could kind of get through places in there. Everything was, all the corners under the bed was full of stuff. His closet was full of stuff. And he just looked around, I guess, I don't know. Don't live in his head, but he must have looked around, decided, you know, wow, this is a mess. And then had the executive function to just start cleaning it up. Wow. And I don't know how long he worked on that for, but there was about, I don't even remember. If you go back to my channel and watch my first videos I did, but it was in the teens, 15, 16, I don't know, bags of trash that came out of that room in that cleaning process. He was able to look through it. He was able to say, yeah, I'll go ahead and get rid of that, which he would never do before, you know? And then over the next few weeks, he proceeded to finish that process. So he cleaned out the main part of his room on that day. He cleaned out like under the bed, in the closet, in the corner. Then he reorganized everything, got rid of the rest of whatever. And his room for the last 2.5 years has been relatively neat, whereas it was never neat before. And it's not because I care about a neat room or a neat house, because I am not a neat freak or a neat person. It was being able to have the capacity to look at that thing, like look at that environment, see what needed to be done, plan it out, right? And do it, follow through on it without, I didn't say a word. I didn't say, you know, your room, you know, I didn't say anything. Cause like I said, I had stopped fighting that battle. And that was the first thing that happened. And I was just like, what just happened now? What just happened? You know? After that, we proceeded to see many, many more changes. So those meltdowns he was having that were getting quite almost scary because he was bigger than me. And you can't control, like, how am I going to control this? Like, am I going to have to send him to, like, you know, some military school or something because he's behaving this way and he's getting bigger and the emotions are big and we haven't figured out how to control them. He was having about 3 of those a week. And in the last 2.5 years of Carnivore, he's had 1 the whole time. 1.
Wow. Amazing.
Like a switch flipped and he just stopped doing that, you know. That was the next thing. Cause I kept waiting. I was like, well, I mean, what's going to happen? You know, he would melt down. It would not necessarily be any one thing. It would always seem like it was just a little thing, but it was probably because the overstimulation of everything that had happened to him. It was usually in the afternoon. It usually wasn't in the morning, although he would fight me to get ready for school, but he wouldn't usually melt down. He would have the big blowout meltdowns usually at the end of the day. He just didn't do that anymore. He doesn't do that anymore. And if there's something he doesn't like, for example, most recently, this would have sent him right off into a meltdown before. He made some plans with some friends. It was supposed to be, once was yesterday and once was supposed to be for tomorrow. This is legit, just happened this week. And he goes, hey, I made some plans with my friends, Friday, blah, 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 Sunday, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you can do the Friday plans, but the Sunday plans you cannot do because we have a family birthday party. And his response was not to get mad, not to, you know, start with, he just goes, oh, okay, cool. You're right. I forgot about that. I'm going to go I'll change my plans. End of talk. End of discussion on that topic. He didn't get mad. He didn't get upset. You're so mean. He didn't call me names. He didn't start going down that road. at all. So that's how he
Wow, Cristie.
responds to like
Amazing.
adverse, situations that may not be optimal for what he wants to do. He just can deal with it. So I don't know how much more you want me to keep going on. I could keep going
No, that's
on,
awesome.
but
I mean, I know that he's had some amazing, amazing changes.
mm-hmm.
And as you are sitting here talking, I'm like, okay, so I'm listening to you talk about my grandkids. Literally, every single one of them has something of what you just said, as far as like getting up and going to school and not cleaning your room and being frustrated and like having a meltdown. I mean, just all of the things that you just described. And I'm like, okay, so how do you get 5 kids on carnivore? We need to make a big change here to help them, because I love the fact that his brain just the switch just flipped. That's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Coach Brown?
Yes, I listen. Okay, yeah, so much I want to say. I gotta.
I know, right?
Because
we need a part 2 on this topic.
Yes, because when we're talking about kids and the kids, I mean, I've just noticed a rise in as a normal person, but I've volunteered in the schools a lot. I've seen changes over the years, and this is a serious thing with these kids today. Attention spans are like 0, and if just changing, if we could just now some people might have more things going on mentally, right, or something else going on that might need. But if we can just the basics with food, just change the food, and to create this much of this difference that we have, and we all know this. We all know because it happened. I know it happened for me in my brain, because when I was eating sugar, and that's I was just waiting for the next hit, like. I mean, breakfast, like, okay, what's for lunch? I'm eating lunch. What I'm eating for dinner today? After dinner, I'm like, okay, what we eating for snacks? And it's like a constant all day thing. And to be free in your mind from worrying about those things, I began to start thinking about other things that I could do. Like you say, clean your room, or, you start doing things that. So as an adult, I will testify that what you're saying, I'm 100%. It is 100% true with carnivore. I've seen that happen even in my own brain and my own life. I guess I would like to ask this, Chris. What do you say to parents? Because no matter where I go, I get asked this when I'm talking to family or whatever. What about fruit? You gotta have fruit. What about fiber? We were told to eat fiber. We were told to eat these things. What about all these things? What do you say to parents? Like,
so as a teacher, okay, on my YouTube channel, I could say whatever I want to say, right? This is like my platform, and hopefully somebody's going to come over here and watch. I don't think any of the parents at my school are doing that. I take the opportunity, my principal allows me to do this by saying, like, I'm taking off my teacher hat and I'm putting on my mom hat, and can I make some suggestions that I've seen help me as a mom? I have yet to have one parent take me up on it. And I think that it's because nobody thinks, because I didn't think that diet, anytime I heard that diet had anything to do with it, or any of the things like the additives, right? The red dye or whatever, because that was a big thing for a while. Like, it's the red dye and the ADHD. Like, when I first started teaching, people would say that. And I would mentally roll my eyes, like in my brain. Like, I wouldn't really roll my eyes because that's rude. But in my brain, I was like, whatever. That's crazy, So I don't think that anyone realizes how significantly the food is impacting their kids. And so that's why I tell this story as many times as I can, because it's like, look, we tried everything. Of course, he had discipline. He wasn't just running amok. Guess what? He would go do it again tomorrow, because that's a symptom of ADHD. The discipline doesn't stick. You don't feel that consequence and then go, oh, shoot, I should, because you have no executive functioning, right? Your executive functioning can be impaired. So yeah, he had discipline. He had plans, school plans, behavior plans. He had visual schedules, time, like all of these things to help him. And none of it actually changed the way that he was functioning. Like, so it's not like we just started with food. I wish we would have, but it never crossed my mind in all of the years being his mom that food could be the problem until I change, or, part of the solution, right? Until I changed my own diet, saw how it helped me, listen to people on YouTube when I think it can help mental health. What do we have to lose? We've tried everything else. But I talk to parents when we have meetings and things, and, I'll say it to them, and they're usually, they like listen respectfully. I've even had one dad say, oh yeah, keto's a good diet, but that's as far as it goes. I don't think so. One of the things I will say is I don't sit there talking about get your kid in an all meat diet. Because if I said that, no. I just say, look, your kid needs more, meat because of the protein and I don't even go real far with the fat, although I think that is what they need. But like, if I told them to just go eat high fat, like same, I'm going to get because they haven't been watching you guys' show every couple of weeks. Like they, they don't know. And so to them, you say high fat and they're going to go, oh no, I'm out. That's not healthy. We've been told all this time to be eating. If we're eating meat, it better be lean or whatever, I'm like, feed your kid an egg for breakfast.
Yeah.
So I say those kind of things, like instead of whatever you're doing, try eggs in the morning, and see if that, changes something. So that's kind of how I phrase it. And if all of my kids, because, I was talking with Anita this morning, ketogenic woman this morning, and she was talking about how she thinks, we say sometimes 30 days, but like maybe people need longer. And yes, I agree. Like after 90 days, Robyn, I know is that for you, after 90 days, the carnivore zen, right? That's when you felt it. My son was only 15. And I think that when he started, right? I think that's part of the reason why he responded so quickly, because fast, he is so young and he did not, this is just a theory, guys, but he didn't eat poorly for 40 years like I did, 47 years, like I did. It was horrible. He had a horrible diet, boxed mac and cheese, like all that stuff is what he was eating. But he was only 15 at the time. And so it's evidence that it must have changed quickly for him, because after 30 days, I was like, hey, do you want to keep going? And he said, yes. And after that, I stopped asking, and it's just become what he does. So it was, and we saw those changes within a week, and he had to feel them in his own body, because otherwise he would have gone right back to the pizza and chips with his friends or whatever, and he just didn't do that. It had to have been, that he just felt that so profoundly and recognized, oh my gosh, like I'm eating like this, and now I feel this way as opposed to that way. But I think if parents just change, if every kid in my class just started eating whole foods, I think that I would see a profound difference in what I notice in the classroom. And I'm going to be writing a book, Robyn, because Dr. Barry wrangled me. He was like, you need to write a book about this. And so
yes,
I'm like,
you do. Okay. Absolutely.
So I am writing a book about this.
This is so important, Cristie, because there's a few examples, of the profound impact of a lifestyle change on our young people. I mean, I think about Carnivore family. I think she's got like 7 kids or something like that, all carnivores, and I just think that the message needs to get out here, not just for adults, but for all of for everybody. We're all human beings, so a proper human diet is for all human beings at all ages.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't wait to read your book and give it away to a lot of people.
Let's go.
Keep us posted on the status of the book. I want to just take a quick look at some questions. We're almost out of time, but just a couple of questions that parents might ask if they are concerned about, going on a primarily meat-based way of eating or a high-fat ketogenic way of eating for their young people. Will they get enough nutrients? How does your kid get his nutrients?
My kid gets all the nutrients he needs. Now I do not get blood work for him. So I don't know. His doctor has never ordered blood work except once when he was a baby testing for allergies, which is a whole nother story that I won't get into. But anyways, he didn't have any allergies. So it's blood work is not something that his pediatrician orders on a regular basis. But I will tell you this, Robyn. So he has asthma. And so when you have asthma and you need that inhaler, you got to go to the doctor because they won't re-up your prescription. So he's been to the pediatrician like every single year, his whole life, as well as if he got sick, which wasn't super often where we feel like he would need to go in or whatever, but occasionally for like an ear infection or whatever. But he's been seen by his pediatrician every single year because of that asthma and needing that inhaler. And you got to go in and get that prescription redone or whatever. And so we've been doing that. But then his asthma, although it is still there, he hadn't needed his inhaler as much. And so we skipped a year. So we didn't go for a year. When he was 16, we didn't go. And then I thought, well, he still uses it occasionally. And, those things expire and whatever, the inhalers. And so I thought we better get in there and just get a new one in case you need it. So you're not breathing in expired medicine. Right.
Right.
And so we went in, and the one thing that his doctor said to us, it was kind of funny because he wasn't looking at us. He was looking at the computer because, the doctors, they have to enter everything in that they're doing. And I'm pretty sure that our pediatrician is a vegan or a vegetarian because he's always telling us to eat your fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. That's like his thing. And so whatever, we just go, okay, doc, and whatever. But anyway, so he was very impressed with the amount of height that Zach had put on since he had been seen last. He was like very impressed. And he made a comment about that. I can't recall the exact quote, but he made a positive statement about, wow, your height and whatever, he really grown and that's, whatever. And that's awesome. And then he said, you must have been eating your fruits and vegetables. And Zach and I just kind of looked at each other, kind of giggled, and then, got a straight face before the doctor turned around. But he has been eating all meat, a lot of beef, some pork, some chicken, and a lot of eggs. And that's what he's been eating for those 2 years. Now, can we say what would have happened had he not? You can't do two experiments at the same time. Who knows? But the doctor who has seen him every year just kind of goes, okay, he's at the whatever, 50th percent, whatever, 50th percentile, whatever he says. He makes some offhand comment. And he was really like, oh, wow, about his height, which he has not done.
Wow.
So that's the one medical anecdote that I can tell you, about his nutrients. Is he sickly? No. In fact, his asthma symptoms have improved. He hasn't put on some weight. Like sometimes like I said, he's a little on the thinner side, but he's able to, he just eats to satiety. He eats more dairy than me, and I'm okay with it because, maybe that would help him put on a little weight. Dairy will help me put on some weight that I don't need to put on.
Yeah, me too.
So I let him eat. That's one of the reasons I let him eat the dairy and things like that,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're about out of time. I want to give Sherrod time for his sort of wrap up, and then I'll close mine out, and then I'll let Cristie give us the final word.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Cristie, for coming on and sharing this. And I don't know, maybe we might have to do a part two. I think this is so important, and I'm saying that not because my kids are grown, all adults, and they choose to eat what they want to eat now. I still talk to them about what they're eating, and if they want to live a great life, you have to make choices, and because it's easy to do. And I remember when I became a young adult, I decided to eat everything I could because I was an adult. Not knowing the damage that I would do to my body over the next 30 years. And so I wanted them to be aware of that. And as I'm learning more about our bodies and systems, I hope that people see this and really understand that it's important that our children start to want to be able to be developed in the right way. And listen, the brain, the organs in the body, it just can't take consistent bombardment of sugar all day long like we've been doing, and be 100%, And so when it comes to studying and getting into the books and all these things that, like my kids struggle with. And now I can see it, probably was related to a lot of the food. I mean, that probably would have helped them somewhat to a degree with their attention, and with the things that they were dealing with, just testing and the stress levels and all these different things, being in band, constantly physically being drained and demanding in school like that. Like, man. Whew. So I want to say just thank you for that. And also, um, I just want to remind everybody, thank everybody for being on. Thank you for watching the show. Please, at any time, you can subscribe to our channel. We're Coach's Corner. We are generally here every couple weeks. We come with a show, and we thank Cristie. This is the first time we've done where we've had a guest, and I'm so glad it was Cristie.
Me too.
And we'll see you here in 2 weeks, hopefully. So subscribe, hit that bell, and like it. So, and also please share this with someone. I know those of you who are watching right now, or who watch this later on, you know somebody in your family that has kids. Just send them this video. Share it, please, because this is important. Once again, we're just trying to get the information out there, because if you don't know, you just don't know. And we're trying to get as many people to know these things as possible. So spread the news, share it, like it, subscribe. See us back here in 2 weeks.
Yes, thank you for your wrap up, Coach
Yes.
Brown. Cristie is just going to be the first of many. We want to invite you, if you are a metabolic health coach and you would like to come on Coach's Corner and talk about the topic that you are passionate about, we would love to have you on. So please feel free to reach out. You can find my information inside my YouTube channel, or, if you're watching on Facebook, you can find me over there. Go ahead and instant message and let us know that you want to come on Coach's Corner and talk about a topic. Also, I want to say thank you to Cristie again. I mean, somebody in the chat was saying how, I've heard this story a couple of times already, but every time it's so profoundly impactful. So we appreciate you. I want to mention about Impact Meetup and Eat Up with Carnivore, Grandma, and Friends. That's going to be happening here in Kalamazoo on September 5th, y'all. It's sold out. And I know that some people are still trying to get tickets. So there's a couple of people who are not going to be able to make it. Go on Facebook and tell the people that you're looking for a ticket, because it is sold out, and it really is going to be. I can't open up any more tickets because of the size of my venue. So sorry about that. But I can't wait to see you here in Kalamazoo. I see Dr. Nelson is there. I can't wait to see you here. And it's going to be an amazing, amazing day. So y'all get ready. We're going to have some fun. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Cristie. She's going to have the last word and take us out.
Awesome. Robyn, I'm sorry I will not be able to make it to Kalamazoo. It's just right at the beginning of my school year. I feel like I'm like majorly missing out here, but I know it's going to be a great event because I know you. So I know anything that you are organizing is going to be fantastic. So yeah, have fun out there, everybody. It's going to be amazing. As Robyn said, I actually am a metabolic health coach, although I usually don't type coach in front of my name, but I am a fully certified coach now. And I do have a website. It's just meetingwellness.com if you're interested in that. My main, the people that I like to help are people that are kind of like me, middle-aged women that have dieted their whole life and are trying to figure it out. Or if you have kids that have any of the struggles that I talked about today, like I would love to help you get your kid transition. It doesn't have to be all the way to carnivore, but just getting out the sugar. And I've successfully done it. And so I feel like I would love to help other people, that are interested in doing that. If you need, the tips and tricks and ways to go about doing that. And so that's where you can find that. Thank you, Robyn. Thank you, Sherrod. Again, it was nice to meet you today. And I appreciate coming on with you on Coach's Corner. Happy to come back anytime.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.